Hey kids, do you like pro wrestling? Well, we like pro wrestling too. This week on Shake Them Ropes in the news, wouldn't you know it? Hulk Hogan just can't make Saturday night main event. What was I going with there? In the lazy river of wrestling
You put the
criticism,
possessive in the wrong
I had a
place.
pozzessive there. Yeah, I had
Yeah, it's
Saturday's night
Saturday
main event instead of
night's
Saturday night's main event.
main
Yes,
event, right? Yeah, but you
proofreading
could
is your friend,
you
kid.
could go Saturday's night
Yes, I
because it
could.
is. I mean, right? Like it is technically Saturday's
What is
night.
this? Like week four, I've screwed up the intro, but we're going with it anyways. In the lazy river of wrestling
Main's
criticism,
events.
yes, let's talk some AEW management and in Vader Club, which I had put lazy river of wrestling criticism, so my proofreading's all over the place. From Superclash II in 1987, Chris has selected Nick Bockwinkel versus Curt Hennig. So you shake them ropes. I am Jeff Hawkins. He is Chris Novembrino. Health updates from both of us. One is visual, one is not. Cancer surgery. I got everything scraped. No chemo this time. Now we wait again, I guess, for the biopsy to see what happens after this. But people said seemed to go well. I'll trust them. Still hurts as I recover, but I am recovering, and I thank everybody for the well wishes. Chris has a tissue coming out of his ear. If he likes to explain it, he can.
Yeah, so I have ear tubes, as we talked about in the last episode. Got another ear infection last week on my left side now. I was bleeding during the last week's taping. This week it is slowed up to like drainage that appears to be clearing up. I'm slowly getting my hearing back here, but it's been about 7 weeks. This is a technique that you can use when you have ear tubes, as I do, known as an earwick. Essentially, you're using the dryness of the paper towel to draw the moisture out of your ear and onto the paper towel. It's it's basic physics or whatever. Heat plus dryness draws the moisture towards the dry area, and then the wick gets all saturated. You remove it and you change it out. It's easy to make at home, kids, with just a paper towel, and fun too. You can name them if you want, or you can have spooky yellow ghosts.
Oh, God, no.
Little spooky yellow ghosts.
I was going to go with the lead that Jeff Hawkins' voice makes Chris Novembrino's ears bleed. Um,
I,
People have
I'm
complained
looking
about my
forward to
voice.
complaining about other people's bands now by saying this makes my ears bleed, or
Nice.
like say, yeah,
Nice.
I'm very much looking forward to deploying that line more often.
Or still an improv coach. I'd have to keep running to the restroom going, nah, it's not that I don't want to watch this. It's just I'd rather feel feel the burn instead of watching you guys try and do comedy. Anyways, to the news. Top story. About a half hour. Saturday night's main event is going to go on. Only real match I'm looking forward to on there. I actually want to see that Jacob Fatu versus Braun Strowman match. I think that's going to be fun. But Hulk Hogan, who was scheduled to appear in all the marketing for this, no longer appearing. Hey, wouldn't you know it? His son Nick just happens to be getting married on the same day as Saturday night's main event.
I
And
can't believe you forgot about that.
just happened to occur 2 days before he was supposed to be there. His old son Nick, Mister
I
Mister
think
Classy that he is. Yeah.
this is even funnier in the sense that originally Hogan was willing to kind of F off the wedding to do Saturday night's main
Brother, I
event.
got an appearance to go do. Sorry about what number is this
Nick.
for you again?
Oh, Nick, let me tell you, brother. Weddings, love, that shit's beautiful. I'm going to see you on Saturday night main event. I'll be thinking of you.
Just have somebody drive you away from the reception, please. Yeah, I don't think he'll be missed. I don't think. I'm kind of hoping WWE pulled him. I'm hoping they got smart. But yeah. Hey, my son
Yeah, I was
just
going to
happens
say
to
they
be
didn't miss him, it seems like.
just happens to be getting married on the same day I was booked to be on a wrestling show. I don't know what to do with these people.
I mean, like, it's the funniest pullout excuse ever because it would normally be a reason why you wouldn't do something in the first place.
Hulk Hogan goes, "Oh, my arm!" Like, Yeah, good riddance. PW Insider reporting that WWE Creative has been told to pull all plans for Alexa Bliss, or put all plans for Alexa Bliss on hold indefinitely. Initial plans were for Bliss to return on the Raw in San Jose several weeks ago, and a storyline involving the Wyatt Six had been pitched as part of that return. Instead, right before that event, Creative was told to drop all plans for Bliss. Creative plans were not an issue, and Bliss was ready to return, but the company put a halt to the plans. One source believed it may be a contract issue. Furthermore to that, the rumor is that the company wants Alexa Bliss to return on her current contract and she'd like a new deal. Additional sources spoke to claim to not know where the issue could be at all. I'm slightly disappointed in that. I was hoping for Alexa Bliss to return. I actually like her. I don't know. But,
I do too. I
yeah.
think she's a quality character, and especially with the writing being what it is right now, a little bit more thoughtful, a little bit more complex. I could see Alexa Bliss coming in, finding a persona or character, maybe more of a persona that works for her, and slotting into this mix nicely.
She's game. She's one of those people who's game for anything, even if it's a bad idea. Like, I still think the black goo thing at WrestleMania might be one of the worst things I've ever seen in professional wrestling, but she was game for it. Yeah, I'm hoping that's not true. I'm hoping PW Insider's wrong on this thing.
But I could see her, come back and have a nice little feud with Tiffany Stratton, or have a nice little tag team with Tiffany Stratton.
Oh, the Alexa Bliss Tiffany Stratton program would be so super snarky and a lot of fun, I think. I think it'd be kind of fun to watch Alexa Bliss basically cutting a promo on herself from 5 years ago. That's what I imagine it being like. Oh, you're the new me from back then, et cetera, et cetera. And Tiffany Stratton's always game for everything. Yeah. AEW filed a trademark for Captain Insano, which anticipates the return of Paul White very soon. Never saw that movie, The Waterboy, so I have no idea what Captain Insano is. Do you?
Oh, Captain Insano is the Waterboy's favorite wrestler. Paul White played Captain Insano back in the day, and I mean, it's yet another member berries licensing waste of money that Tony Khan is doing, and I just want to know how much he's paying for things like Maximum Carnage and Captain Insano so that I can eventually scale that against how many homeless people you could feed with the soup kitchen, rather than buying stupid nostalgia bait for millennials that has no real monetary value. Maximum Carnage meant nothing, and he paid money for that. Captain Insano means nothing, and he's paying money for it. Oh, that's right.
He did pay money for Maximum Carnage.
Yeah, he did. It was a video game from the 90s. Which is not even a very good video game, might I remind everyone. You like it because you can play as Venom, but the actual walking.
Is that the one with the dinosaurs fighting, or am I thinking something else?
No, I think you're thinking of the Jurassic Park game, or you're thinking Primal Rage.
Primal Rage, that's what I'm
Primal
thinking.
Rage, yeah.
What is Maximum
Jurassic
Carnage?
Park? Maximum Carnage is a Spider-Man and Venom video game where Carnage is the villain, and it kind of looks comic booky. It's just a very, very mid beat 'em up, is what it is.
So he paid for a Marvel trademark.
Yeah,
he works for the company that owns DC. Okay.
Yeah. No. This is what I'm saying. I just think these are. I'm not saying no capitalist organization should ever buy things ever, or whatever. My point about soup kitchens, it's these are really frivolous expenditures. He'd get more goodwill by sending his staff and his wrestlers to do a soup kitchen for the same amount of money.
Adam Sandler's prime came at a time where I thought I was hot shit in comedy. Pardon my French. So it was one of those rebellious things where I just didn't want to see his dumb movies.
I could see you hating everything about Adam Sandler's
Yeah, yeah. It's but I liked him on Remote Control originally. So I mean, I was partial to him, but by the time he got on Saturday Night Live, it was I thought that was a great hire. And then him and Spade and Farley just started doing sketches where they just started making each other laugh. And I started getting angry at the corpsing and stuff. But Fred Wolf Films, I pass it a lot. It's down here on Burbank Boulevard all the time. Still exists. That's his partner. Fred Wolf was, whose second was he? He was a second banana on a talk show. It might have been Jon Stewart's original show. I can't remember who, but
say what you will about Adam Sandler. Unlike Jimmy Fallon, he was actually funny.
Yes, because Jimmy Fallon took his act from a friend of mine, pretty much. Um, Omos is back on his way to WWE after being one half of the GHC Tag Team Champions, and Noah relinquishing the title. I assume he's going to be reappearing at the Rumble, and then we won't see him again for 8 months because MVP's no longer around, or we might find another mouthpiece for him. Although there aren't that many. Like Karrion Kross could be he could join the Final Testament. I don't know. What would you do with Omos in WWE, Chris?
I mean, Omos, it works the best the AJ Styles model, where you have him as the Diesel to some other guys, Shawn Michaels. Maybe here's someone who could maybe benefit from this: Carmelo Hayes and Omos.
That would be, you know what? That'd be kind of fun. I'd take that. Or the New Day.
Yeah, right.
The answer to everything is the New Day.
The New Day bringing in Omos as the new Big E.
Bigger E.
Bigger E. Big O. The Big O.
The Big O. Because all the ladies like the Big O.
They all like the Big O. That actually, it would be really funny to see the New Day bring in a new member, like with the Poochie from The Simpsons energy, where they just desperately try to get this guy over as like the new cool guy. And
they almost had that with that Orlando Jones, or not?
Yeah, Odyssey
Jones.
It's funny because Odyssey Jones inadvertently was like a nice test pilot for healing the New Day, bringing in someone else to replace Big E. And acting like it's all continuity or whatever.
Although he might get cleared of that stuff, Odyssey Jones. I skipped this story a couple weeks ago, but he had restraining orders on the woman that he's accused of having violence against, because he's saying, hey, she was attacking me and all I was doing was parrying the stuff back, and he had gotten like a restraining order and stuff like that. So I don't know if that means they're going to bring him back, or if it's too much trouble. But that was the
I would hate if that is indeed the case. If they were like, oh, it's too much trouble, we're not going to deal with this. I mean, that's a very different thing.
Yeah,
and that's not actually something I think. A workplace should not penalize you for being the victim of domestic violence.
Yeah, I know,
right?
I
would hate that if that was the case. Is what I'm saying.
that would suck pretty bad. Like kind of the was it Jake Atlas and Duke Hudson situation type of thing.
Right.
I'm going to read a few stories here, Chris, because the news is over for the most part. We're going to the lazy river of wrestling, Chris, and we're going to talk a little bit about AEW. I know you follow regular sports, or you at least have had an ear to it, but the Jacksonville Jaguars this week fired their GM and then hired a head coach who had previously interviewed with the team. Now, how am I going to tie this together? Well, you'll see in a moment. But this week, Wade Keller reporting that Britt Baker said that she's not being used right now. There are issues stemming from her situation with MJF and Alicia Tout months ago, and that the idea is that there's animosity from some of the women regarding her. That has been now spun out to they're not bringing her back by certain outlets that aren't very trustworthy, and even Conan decided to get involved with this and start this rumor that he cheated on Adam Cole, which is just garbage, and I don't want to talk about that. But there is talk that they're not going to be using Britt Baker anymore. There have been creative differences about Lashley not giving the win back to Swerve. They're saying that those have been tabled for now. They're going to do something else with Swerve and Ricochet, and then Lashley and Shelton Benjamin, as we've been seeing with the tag team run. Jon Moxley has creative control on the Death Riders. We knew that. This week, MJF saying that MJF had put a stop to the Double J angle, wasn't feeling it. Ricky Starks had asked for his release and was turned down and said he has not rejected any creative. He has claimed last year in an interview with Chris Van Vliet that he never turned down any booking ideas. This is Dave Meltzer talking. I only know that several people have brought up that Starks and Big Bill were supposed to implode as a team, and Starks was to go babyface, and we never saw Starks again. Whether nobody told him any of this and it was just a coincidence, I can't tell you. Tony Khan, more and more, if someone doesn't want to do his creative unless they are his top tier guys, he just stops using them with the idea that there are tons of other people who are cooperating operative that want TV time. Plus, with Starks, once he was convinced Starks was leaving, he wasn't going to book him going forward because that's just how he does things. Wardlow, MIA, says he's ready to go. They come to him with an idea. Ray Phoenix posted a photo of himself in a straitjacket as if he's being held hostage. And Deonna Purrazzo, according to Fightful Select, has been very vocal to management about wanting to be utilized more and better, especially around the Full Gear show in her hometown. Chris, Tony Khan needs to be a boss.
No shit, dude. Like this is a laundry list this time.
Not all of these are this week. Some of these are over the past couple weeks, but
this is like a summation, and it just speaks to this broader narrative.
Yes, and it's what I kind of want to talk about a little bit. Like the GM story from the Jacksonville Jaguars says a lot to me. Because what they had done was they were bringing in guys to be their head coach or whatever, and the GM was going, I don't like these guys, or the perfect guy isn't there, whatever. I think the Khans had their eye on the offensive coordinator of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he had turned down a second interview, and after that happened, all of a sudden they fired the general manager. I think this is a case of rich guys want their way. And the guys that they hired to manage the day-to-day stuff need to talk to the guy with the money more a lot. And I think Tony Khan needs to be more managerial. I think he needs a heavy hitter in there as opposed to guys who'll be nice. I do think he wanted to make AEW originally kind of an artist collective and be friends with everybody, and hey, these are all our friends, and we're all in this business together. You saw like Britt in the early days used to post all the time about going to Daly's place and hanging out with Tony Khan or going to Jacksonville Jaguar games, etc. I think the bigger problem for me, and this is a working theory I'm working on, Chris, is that when you talked about Vince McMahon had new toy syndrome. He always wanted the next guy, and he wanted to see what he could do with them and do the most for him. I think Tony has kind of an opposite problem. I think Tony has 3 toy syndrome, and there's only 3 toys that Tony really wants to play with. He wants to play with guys from the SmackDown 6 era. He wants to play with guys from the mid-aughts to teens, Ring of Honor / PWG Super Indie days, and he wants New Japan work rate guys that'll pop Dave Meltzer. I think those are the only kinds of performers that really interest Tony Khan right now. And I think the rest of it is just having people there on your roster to shift and whatnot. But it's one of those things where it's much bigger. And we'll get into
it's the difference between having your way and having a vision, isn't it? Tony Khan is very obsessed, clearly, and per that quote there, with having his way. And as you said, rich people tend to, especially if they are born rich and arrive into business, especially through like a familial business, they don't necessarily have a vision so much as they have a mood and a desire to have that mood sated. They want to feel as though they're getting what they want, even if what they want is dumb. They would rather have the dumb thing that they want to have than the good thing that they don't have any want to have. And you're never going to teach that. It tends to be an Achilles heel with these second generational, multi-generational like business scions. And Khan, I think you are right, only seems to be interested in servicing those 3 groups, the mid-aughts, the SmackDown 6, and the New Japan guys. And that's servicing them. That's not necessarily doing storytelling with them.
Right.
So far as you're getting that right now out of the Hurt Syndicate, it's because they had a story already written in WWE, already started in WWE, and they're building off of IP that was already established, and they have something that's sort of going there. But they're not really able to sort of thread the needle of like, okay, what are we doing with Swerve? What's the interaction with Swerve? Oh, we can't figure it out. Let's just drop it. I look at the same thing with the MJF and Jarrett thing. I thought Jarrett's promo this week was like hilariously bad.
God,
like,
yes. I couldn't believe that.
Sorry, guys. Lost my cool last week. Jeez Louise.
Now let me
Lost
tell you
to-
about Jerry Lawler, who you all will love. That was not an audience that loved Jerry Lawler. That was not.
No crap. It's like, okay, so now let me tell you about some stuff with Jerry Lawler, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, wait. And then all of this ends with him going, well, you'll see why I'm an outlaw. I'm sorry, dude, but like, not that I loved the flavor of that promo, but an outlaw doesn't really have a problem with calling somebody's girlfriend or mother a whore. They're an outlaw.
Well, an outlaw with a code, Chris.
Never talk bad about somebody's mama.
I mean, it's like in the Flash when they decide to rewrite the Rogues as having a code. We're bank robbers and we're villains, but no women and no children. It's like, right, cool. I think Tony wants his bangers. I think he wants his bangers, and he doesn't really know much beyond that. And I think he has people giving him bad advice. Although Dave is starting to turn into the promo guy. We need more promos out of some of these young people. And
there needs to be a reason to watch this show every week in terms of story building. I feel like from week to week, this show, I feel like I'm watching the same show every week. And I don't mean like the same named show. I feel like in a lot of ways, I'm watching the same episode of Dynamite every week with slightly different casting.
You know what? It's weird because after analyzing the show on Wednesday night, if I were writing that Dynamite, I would have outlined it pretty much the same way they did this week. I think it was weird. They had the outline that you'd think would work. And I think the problem was a lot in execution and doing kind of second level thinking on some of the things. I'll give you an example. Like the B story or the number 2 story of Omega and Ospreay against the Callis family. Hot start, but it overshadows your A story, which is the Death Riders story, because the Death Riders is a bad story because the Death Riders don't have any real, how do I put this? Motivation, to be honest with you. And Copeland and Cope or Edge or whatever the hell you want to call him is a little washed, to be honest with you. So you start out hot and then you never get back to that point. And I think everybody's waiting to get back to that point. But you also notice that the Ospreay Omega story started with a 4-on-2 fight where the baby faces won. And then you end your A story with a 4-on-2 fight where the baby faces lose. And they're supposed to be superior to this to the 2 that you have in the beginning of the show. And so I think it's one of those weird things where it's like, okay, I don't think you saw that pattern there. And I think you may have done it incorrectly. It should have been, I think, probably Omega and Ospreay get beat down by the Callis family and then challenged for the tag, fight, or Fletcher gets so frustrated that he challenges them for a tag fight. And then you have maybe somebody repel the Death Riders on the end. The Private Party thing, that is Private Party, is that the worst title reign in the history of AEW?
Man, it might very well be.
Other than maybe Julia Hart's TBS title reign, or she had one of the women's titles. I don't remember which one.
And then I guess it would also, it's a different sort of quality of bad, but like Jade Cargill's title reign, in terms of they got nothing out of it, it went nowhere, and she's gone.
And she's gone. Yeah.
That one was, I think, more damaging because it just dragged on for such a long time and then ended with no equity. But Private Party, boy, put a fork in both these guys. They're cooked. I don't know. I don't know what else they could possibly do in this company. If I'm Quinn and Zay, I am having a conversation about we need to figure out how to retrofit our act to be more WWE friendly. We need to get to the end of this contract, and we need to hope that WWE sees something in us so that we can get a second lease on life, because we're never going to get one here in AEW. We're done. It's been
5 years, yeah.
We're done. There's nowhere. There's no road left for them to drive.
And I'll give you a difference in how people work between people who have never been in the big company and people who have been, because when you were in WWE when Vince was there, and they did this during the territories too. Don't get me wrong, but in modern times it would be Vince. There's always one guy who, if you didn't make it look realistic at all, and you got backstage or whatever, he would be screaming at you. That fight in the beginning, look, they stuck the landing on it. The moonsaults off off the balconies and stuff like that. Those are very impressive. But the actual fight backstage where they're kind of holding on to each other, not really doing anything, or they're standing around.
Trash throwing. It's the
trash throwing was kind of lame. The double suplex where it's like, okay, we need to take 30 seconds. Okay, are you ready? Here we go. It just didn't come off well. And to me, if they had been, under one of these guys who was a screamer or whatnot, they would have been screamed at. Meanwhile, after the private party match, I got to give him props. Bobby Lashley celebrating like it was one of the best things to happen in his career, that he won a tag team title in AEW, a company I'm not sure he wants to really be with, but he's there and he's making money, but he sold it. He sold it as if it was important to him, and I believed him. And it was fun to see, even though I hated I hated the ending of that match because was it Zay or Quinn, one of the two, had their legs up saying, okay, pin me, pin me, pin me, and they were left stuck there after that clothesline. And I think Lashley just shoves him around and hooks the leg, and 1, 2, 3. I went, God, you even made him look bad in the pin. But he at least sold it as if it was real. And, that was cool too. But it was like, the show tends to go on with one ear to the audience and one ear to the internet. And it was one of those things where it's like, it wasn't a bad Dynamite, but it wasn't anything special, No.
And I leave the episodes not, I don't know. I don't feel like I don't feel like I know the characters better. Moxley's in control of writing this Death Riders thing. What the hell are they about?
Yeah, I don't get it.
It's hard for me to care about a show with characters I can't care about, and I feel routinely like I don't care about these characters. Will Ospreay's journey has been so weird and meandering, and as a character, he's so kind of all over the place and inconsistent. And then Omega's out here and being almost irrationally unlikable to begin that segment. Irrationally contentious to begin that segment.
I'll give you, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that came off really negative, and I wasn't feeling good about that at all. It's like, these are your two top baby faces. And now they're being. You're not the best. I'm the best. It's like,
right.
Oh God.
It wasn't merely just I don't trust you. You're with John Callis. It was then I'm the best in the world, and it's Kenny, dude, that might have been a claim you could make 7-8 years ago, but you're coming off of diverticulitis and removing this is your story too. You shouldn't be saying you're the best in the world right now. Especially when a couple of weeks ago you were out here humbly asking if you still had it.
Yeah, and then he does the match and he's getting attacked, and Will Ospreay immediately comes out to save him last week. To do it this week, Omega is such a jerk. He gets attacked, and then Omega's doing the should I go save him type thing. It's like, you were willing to throw yourself into this war last week willy-nilly. Why aren't you out there immediately again? It's that inconsistency stuff. I feel the same way about Jamie Hayter, who used to be the hottest woman in this company in terms of who fans wanted to see and stuff. And this week, she's cutting promos for Julia Hart that, you're a real tough bitch. And anytime, you want a rematch, I'll say it was almost like Tony was like, I'm worried about beating Julia Hart right now, and I need to keep her strong. I mean, you could have done that promo next week and gotten the same thing out of it. It just seemed weird to do it right after Jamie Hayter got the strongest win since he's come back from Wembley. quite frankly. And it just was like, okay, why are we afraid to be? Oh, because we have a relaunch promo of the House of Black without Black in it, where they basically said he's gone.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, and Jamie Hayter.
yep. Someone sent me flowers. I had to interrupt.
I
They
like the
smell
idea.
lovely.
We will have gone from you not having flowers in hand to having flowers in hand in a jump cut. That's the high level video production you get
Well,
when
I
you
wasn't
watch
expecting a
us on
delivery,
YouTube.
but I figured somebody was trying to do something nice post surgery, so I paused it. Yeah. We
But
talk
yeah, no,
about
Jamie Hayter was this hot product, but it gets back to inconsistent characterization. I like Jamie Hayter as a wrestler. I think she's got energy. I think she has a good crowd connection. That theme song is a banger. Actually, like while we were on a little
it's
break, I have a keyboard right next to my bong, and I turned on the keyboard real quick as I took a bong rip, and I played her little theme song. Bum, 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 bum. It's catchy. It's a catchy song.
it's possibly my favorite AEW entrance song, other than maybe Ricky Starks.
It gets you pumped. Like when that groove drops in, that main groove, it's great. I I go back to the point I made before the break here of it's very hard to care about a universe where I don't care about the characters. I was actually talking with a friend of mine who's a Star Trek fan. I'm not going to get into a big riff on Discovery, but basically, in a nutshell, it was our same issue with Discovery beyond everything else. It's just if I don't care about the characters,
Is that the
I
Scott
don't care.
Bakula one, or is that a different one?
No, that's Enterprise, and Enterprise actually has characters I like. It's just they're sometimes burdened with plots that stink.
Okay.
Whereas Discovery's kind of all of these problems, plots that stink, but also characters I don't know and that are ciphers. And
Ah,
ciphers are not interesting. The Death Riders are a cipher. They are nebulously
there's cipher
nebulously
for. Go
villainous.
ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, they're nebulously villainous. They have the generic trope of the loser flunky that they all beat up on, who's like a little weasel. Like basically they're like dime store Dominic. And they have Marina Shafir, who is again just a MacGuffin
She's a
of a
MacGuffin.
character.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's just there. She's also a cipher. And it's boring.
Drives one of my listeners nuts on my other show when I call her a MacGuffin. It's like, explain what a MacGuffin is. It's because they never have explained why she's in this group. And
She's a trope. Like
yes.
these people are tropes. They're characters. They're ciphers.
And even Moxley's statement is oh these kids these days are not as tough as the pro wrestlers of old or whatever. And it's like, okay, why is this your thing? Or okay, whatever, explain yourself or whatever. And Claudia's just a heavy. So
it's contra to what AEW's branding has always been, which is like about like the young kids, the primacy of the young athlete, and all of this sort of stuff. And now we have this like big overarching dominant cloud of like WWE refugees all around the age of 40.
yeah, oh, that's true too. I mean, there's concern about the age of the roster in terms of the stars, but it's like you even watch like, okay, we're going to put a new coat of paint on an old act. So it's the House of Black, but there's no Aleister Black or Malachi Black or I can't even remember his name anymore, to be honest.
He's Malachi on AEW TV.
Yeah, well, no longer
Whatever.
on AEW TV.
Well, he was Malachi.
But they're cutting this promo. We're the Hellhounds. Okay, but you're basically the same thing you were without him, as opposed to doing something fresh and inventive with Buddy Matthews / Buddy Murphy and Brody King, neither of whom are exactly charismatic dynamites on the microphone. Julia Hart's doing her Stevie Nicks impression. It's nice, that she can lip sync her song and stuff. And her, her weird videos where she turns into an archer. Jamie here goes, you shot me with an arrow, but you're still tough. I'm just like, what are you doing?
Right. Shooting someone with an arrow makes them tough.
Yes, it makes
It's not.
you
It's
tough
not.
for taking
It's
an
not.
arrow.
Well, it's not. I actually think it's pretty badass to be able to shoot an arrow. I can't
Yeah,
shoot
it
an arrow.
is, but still, it's like one of those things where it's like, I respect you after shooting me with an arrow and spitting mist in my face. No,
Well, and
no.
just changing the name is not actually giving your faction a character or a discerning plot beat where we could see things change. At least with the Death Riders, they beat up Bryan Danielson. That could have been the start of something. They
Yeah,
at least had that. They had that part of the formula correct. It's everything else where it fell off.
that had no emotional resonance within this company either.
Right.
As you attack, well, Brian Danielson's gone, and we move on. It's
How am
AEW
I supposed to
Dynamite.
care about a universe that doesn't care about itself?
Right, exactly. Yes.
It feels as though like these people don't care about their own existence, and then Jericho's out there doing the same schmarmy shit, and I don't know. For me, Dynamite's become very easy to grab the fast forward button on. Where if I don't, I mean, if I'm not dialed into the match, I don't have to worry about it because the matches are not particularly story laden, though they should be. And then we get to the promos, and a lot of these promos are ho hum, or skippable, or brief.
Yes. Although, yeah, it's like Superman's dead, but don't worry. Batman's gonna be fighting the ventriloquist later or something like that. It's like, well, look, Superman's dead. Let's talk about that for a moment. Nope, can't. Got to move on. Got weekly TV to fill. Yeah,
The death of Bryan Danielson in a different company with a different sort of narrative discipline, having that happen at year's end in 24 should be the inflection point for all of the first 6 to 9 months of 25.
Yes.
That people are wrestling with the death of Superman here. That Bryan Danielson isn't here. You should have young guys kind of struggling, maybe like wanting mentorship, and that leads to new tag teams being formed of like young guys looking for older mentors. Everyone should have reacted to this, and this should have been a point for characterization.
It should have reverberated throughout the company, where it's like everybody's kind of just trying to think, well, if Bryan Danielson gets knocked out by this
not
force,
only that,
what does that mean about me?
Right, he got screwed. To watch a guy have his dreams sort of destroyed. He becomes world champion. He's like, I'm going to fight until I lose the belt. And to have it be lost in a way that is so dishonoring really should chill decent people and rattle them and cause introspection. And again, it gets back to, how do I care if you don't? And that is my overarching feeling on AEW TV right now. Quinn and Zay, which we opened up this conversation, were just random ass tag team champions. They had a random ass story against the Bucks that, was and randomly were called Scrubs O'Magoos by John Moxley. And then in the end, John Moxley was effing right.
I forgot about the Moxley promo on these guys where they break the dude's wrist or hand and say, you've not done anything in the 5 years you've been here. Go do, and then they give him the tag belts, and then it turns out it was just a fluke. And now they're just calling them Zay and Quinn because nobody can keep track of their actual names. They might as well just call them Private Party 1 and Private Party 2, like the Conquistadors. I mean, it's just
See, Disorderly Conduct had a good name scheme where you have
Mean Mark and
Mean Mike and Tough Tom.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so you reinforce it. So you'd have Zany Zay and Querulous Quay or Quinn.
Questioning Quinn.
Yeah, Questioning Quinn.
Oh, Curious, but with a Q. Curious Quinn.
Curious Quinn. Zany Zay.
Oh God, I could see that. See, that'd be them in WWE. It's the Fun Party Boys, a private party.
That would be with Vince. I actually think they'll get a better shake.
Let's have them shoot poppers.
Yep.
We can't put alcohol on TV. That would be bad for the children. But maybe
I
they make balloon animals when they come out. Maybe
I
that
mean,
kind of
their biggest problem though, honestly, with WWE is like Street Profits are still there, and that's basically the same
and
gimmick,
they're better.
and they're better.
And they're still not pushed to the
Yeah.
moon where they should have been. I mean, it's so funny you say that. I've been thinking this about Private Party for years. We were waiting for that breakup, and then Dawkins starts to become an absolute beast in the ring. So it's like, well, we can't break up this act now because we don't have one guy who's hotter than the other. And now they're just in there with a bunch of short, skinny white dudes who are very quick and very good wrestlers. But it's still one of those things where you see them against DIY or Motor City Machine Guns, and you see the size disparity, and you're like, my God, what are they doing here? But speaking of which, just going more lazy, DIY and Motor City Machine Guns, best 2 or 3 at Royal Rumble. I think I'm here for
No,
that. I'm here for
I'll
that.
be fine. Well, I'll be honest. I have not watched a lot of Motor City Machine Guns since they've came to WWE.
Yeah.
Because we never really do SmackDown on this show, and by the time we get to week's end, I usually
It's
don't.
usually worn out, but I mean, they're the
Yeah.
same Motor City Machine Guns,
Yeah.
now. So I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, exactly. No, and DIY is the same DIY. I know and love with a little bit of a snarkier edge. I like Gargano's schmarmy thing that he's doing right now. I find funny.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah, I like it.
Your go, sir. I've talked enough.
All right. So I guess let us kick it over to NXT, the land of Obafemi and Eddie Thorpe.
And that's
They
it,
had,
I think. I think
I mean,
Obafemi, and that's it.
it is the land of Obafemi, and Obafemi has his match against Eddie Thorpe, and I can't stress enough how badly I think Eddie Thorpe has been mishandled through all of this. And they're not going to even, I don't expect Thorpe to grab the microphone and sort of like think about how badly I've been screwed through all of this sort of thing, because this felt very final, like we're moving on from Eddie Thorpe. But the man pinned Trick Williams twice. And then, he got 2 visual pins over the guy. And then he gets this match against Obafemi here, and it was fine. Oba is a physical presence, but I think the problem with Oba as a baby face is what is this match style supposed to be like? Thorpe didn't really have a good heel strategy going into this match.
No, he did not.
I think Thorpe should have been attacking a limb really
Work the
aggressive.
leg or
Yeah,
work the
the
arm?
leg.
Yeah.
To me, especially right from that pose, Femi's sort of giving away that he's got very long legs, which, if you take those out from under him, he's not nearly the powerhouse. That should be the strategy for a guy like an Eddie Thorpe.
Yeah.
It was the wrong. He should have lost. Obviously, he shouldn't have won. But it was the wrong match. This should have been a damaging moment in the armor of Obafemi here, where Eddie Thorpe actually exposes like a knee vulnerability or something like that.
Yeah. I don't know where to go next, because I have like 3 different NXT thoughts in my head, but I'll go with the first one that I'm thinking of. Chris, what are the man rules against slapping another man? Because Charlie Murphy taught me in True Hollywood Stories of on the Chappelle Show that men don't slap other men unless it ends in a duel or something like that. And Trick Williams just bitch slapped Wesley on this show, and I watched it. And I went to the point where they did makeup on Wesley's face of a handprint, which was the worst makeup job since Bobby Eaton got his face rubbed in concrete. It came up with like a splotch of like strawberry jam against the Horsemen when they were building that thing in 1989. I watched that and I went, I don't know if that was badass or effeminate, Chris.
I thought it was too emasculating to Wesley. Like if you get I'll be honest. If you get open-handed slapped like that, uh, I think, I think you have to respond by tackling.
Yes. Okay. Good.
Man, call me old-fashioned here. I just don't think you can let that slide. Like Wesley said something. Wesley said something. Trick Williams open-handed slapped him. His boys also, for their part, did nothing. They're just like, well, I never. And I'm like,
But you're his
dude,
boys.
you're
You're
his boys. Yeah, no. I'll tell you what. If I
Dude
did that
code
after,
violated on so many levels, and that's it.
right, like next week at bare minimum, Wesley, I think Wesley's got to be looking at his boys and be like, the hell was that? Y'all left me high and dry. What is that shit?
Punk me. What's what you did?
Yeah.
Your turn.
Man, yeah, no, same thing. Lexus King, Charlie Dempsey.
Oh, God. I hated
Why are we
this.
still doing this? Why are we still doing this?
Okay, so he's a heel after all. Da, 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 da.
I know.
He's still working like modern day Chris Jericho. Slow and
I
plodding.
mean, the funny thing is, it's like, so he's a heel after all, but none of this got Charlie Dempsey over as a baby face throughout.
No,
So,
because he was a heel
Well,
the whole time. It's just,
right. What was the whole point of it? Like, you had his own dad working against him, and somehow you managed to not stick the landing on getting Charlie Dempsey over as the sympathetic figure.
Ridge Holland was an NXT title contender.
That's
And now-
correct.
And now I thought he was possibly graduating back to the main roster. But instead, he's getting punked out by Izzy Dame. He got knocked out by a girl. I'm sorry. How?
In a world where you've just made Obafemi champion, Ridge Holland is such an obvious contender for him. Why are you doing this stuff?
To me, I mean, that just puts him in a freezer lock from the main event. He is now. I could not believe that was the ending to that. Like, don't get me wrong, I like Tony and his crew of wacky stereotypes, but it's still one of those things where I was like, I thought Ridge Holland was earmarked for something, and you guys just absolutely killed anything you had built up with him the past year or so as the quote unquote best heel on the roster.
I like Izzy. I think Izzy
She's
is
fine. She's
yeah,
fine.
I think I think she's a good wrestler, and I think she's good at the character work. I don't love what they're giving her, but that's not the same thing as not thinking that her performance is solid. I think she's really solid. I think she'll add some. Izzy Dame will add something to Adriana Rizzo, because Rizzo as a singles kind of flounders. They might actually work sort of as a tag team.
Yeah, I could see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
She's sneaky tall too. That
Yes.
also
Right.
helps.
No. I think Izzy maybe sort of shores up some of the gaps that Rizzo has performance wise too. They make a solid little tag team. And the nice thing about the D'Angelo Gabagool Mafia is that it gives you something to do on NXT TV every week, because they can't seem to not write this stuff every week.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, I'll add some good into this, but my God, I am so tired of the WWE trope that occurs in NXT that all women secretly hate each other and they all must be bickering at all times. Type of teenage NXT high school crap that they're doing with that locker room. Don't get me wrong. Again, your girl, Kaylani Jordan, flipping the double birds to old Jada Parker there. They didn't catch that on camera. They did from the back end, so they didn't have to blur it out or anything. But yep, she's flipping the birds. She is a heel, even though she hasn't turned yet. I like Carmen Petrovich a lot. Although I always say every time she comes out, she has a sword. What's she gonna do with a sword in a wrestling match type of a thing? But that Jada Parker match was rough, and it was mostly rough because it looked like Jada was just in quicksand for a few minutes.
Yeah, Jada's hit or miss. It's like I've seen Jada be good,
Yes.
but then I've seen Jada stink it up, and I don't know if it's like a cardio and like pre-match sort of thing where she hasn't quite figured out how to get her energy level up to the same level every performance. That's the thing that's important for artists. You know this too, right?
Yeah.
So
Energy is a choice. That's what we were always told.
energy is a choice, but like you also have to like train up your energy and start figuring out a system that gets you there.
Don't have an adrenaline dump before a show or whatever, because otherwise you're just gonna be low energy the entire time.
Yeah, right. And don't over adrenalize before you get on stage. Otherwise you'll be too jittery. And then my guitar won't be, I can't hold it. Or I'll be, kind of like moving too fast. The game won't slow down enough. So she might be working that out. I'll give her credit on that. But this was a rough outing. NXT's women's division, is very interesting right now because there's a lot of talent, but there's also been a fairly consistent trend of the undercard matches stinking, not just like being so-so, but like actually being actively kind of bad in the last month here.
I don't care if she was slightly corpsing at all, but the fact that they did the phony earmuffs spot with Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez during that promo, I adored it. It was my favorite moment of that whole thing. Good on the it wasn't Full Sail. It was where were they? They were in Orlando, I think, still, but they're at the PC still. But that crowd with the boos and just drowning them out, I thought they did a really good job on that promo, on that at least in terms of making the atmosphere. Cora Jade just is a heat machine. Just because I guess people just naturally don't like her.
Yes. I mean, dude, like, she has go away heat for me, but then, like, I see the way that she gets crowds to actively hate her, and I'm like, okay, I guess there is something here with this act.
I'm kind of the same way. I'm never going to tell a woman, don't get the enhancements that they tell you to get, and it turns out it looks like Kiana James has now listened to some people, let's put it that way. But she's been different since she's come back from the knee injury. But yeah, she has go-away heat, but at the same time, she gets the heat that you need in a segment because of that go-away heat. It's a very interesting skill to have. She has the X-Pac heat, as they like to say. Where it's
but she doesn't have the X-Pac talent in the ring.
No, she does not.
That's the thing. Like, X-Pac, people hated him. They wanted him to go away. But like X-Pac, Sean Waltman could, when he was applied, it was always a good worker when he was applied.
But her best thing is she gets Roxanne focused on her heelness, because I don't believe Roxanne is a heel half the time because she's so small, tiny, cute, adorable, really good wrestler. But when Cora's in there with her and she hears the boos, Roxanne all of a sudden gets focused on her energy, and I think that's why they make a good, compelling pair to me. I am here for Aunt Pam and Julia versus those two, though. I think that's going to be a hoot and a happening, as they like to say.
Yeah, no, it will be.
A lot of black leather in that segment, though.
A lot of black leather.
A lot of black leather.
I see what you're saying about Kiana James, too. There you go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Your turn.
All right. Man, I guess now let's kick it over Raw. Why are we blowing through people who Penta could be having a good feud with, like a good multi-week feud with, and just blowing through these matches lickety split? I mean, Pete Dunne versus Penta, nice, but these two guys really should be built-in rivals. They seem such like natural rivals, and these matches that Penta is having are matches that would, to me, be benefiting from a week's build at least. Okay, you build for a week and they did this sort of a Gable, but then do that with Pete Dunne too. Don't just rush right into it the next week.
I would agree to a point. Pete Dunne's kind of being morphed into a producer role, and he's not getting a push with anybody. I think it's fairly here's what I think. I don't think there's a lot of, I mean, you showed Penta in a long match last week. I don't think you need Penta in a match this week. You just need the aura of Penta, and you just need, maybe he comes out for a segment to do a promo or something, but you just, needs to show, what do you chant when he's out here? What does he do, etc. And then we build the match for next week. I would agree with you on that. Yeah, I don't want to, but I also don't want to see Penta wrestling every week. I think that's a thing that AEW does a lot with a new guy. It's like, hey, let's give him 3 bangers in a row from this guy, and then
the commander move.
Yeah, or even like the Will Ospreay move, where it's like, hey, we're gonna have 3 matches in a row with the guy, show you everything he has, and then there's no mystery to him anymore, and then people will lose interest, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. Your topic.
Oh, it's my go. I really liked the main event overall. I thought that was. Look, Drew is outstanding. Or am I mixing that? Was it Seth and Drew this week?
Yeah, it was Seth and Drew, and no, I'm with you, man. I like Seth's character right now. I think it's sufficiently complex.
I love how they folded Sami Zayn into this whole thing.
Yeah,
with Kevin Owens too, because I think that's going to be the move there for Mania is Owens and Zayn probably in a ladder match of some kind or something like that. But like questioning Zayn's loyalties and his motivations as well. I'm thinking they've been really doing a good job of him, of kind of building up that maybe he's not the clean cut, straight ahead babyface that everybody thinks he is, but he's going to end up being that anyways. But I like that they're giving doubts about that. Like they did that kind of with the Miz program last week, and then this week it's kind of like, oh, you're still loyal to Roman. Everybody who looks at him goes, you're still loyal to Roman. So maybe you're not the guy we thought you were, etc. But I thought the match overall with Seth and Drew was quite good. Although it's very odd because usually by now you kind of know who's going to win the Rumble, and I think I still do think I know who's going to win the Rumble, but it's not quite as clear, and I find that far more interesting this year. Let me add one more thing on there. I'm a little disappointed, oddly enough, in one of our favorites, and it's Walter or Gunther, because while he's the champ, he's not the guy, and I just feel like on this Raw show, every program he's now in is just him coming out in a suit with the title, which, look, it's a great look, but he just looks and goes, you're not as good as me, and leaves. But he's not the main champion. And so it's one of those things where I kind of go, yeah, but you're the B guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
He's even colder than he was when he was an Intercontinental champ, I think.
Well, part of the problem, too, is that he doesn't interact with Adam Pearce. He just keeps kind of coming out and doing his thing. And I think there should be, for the world champion like Gunther, friction between him and the GM. And that's kind of what forces a lot of the action. Gunther's contention that no one's good enough to face him should force Adam Pearce to have to do something about this. And like Adam Pearce sort of has to, kind of maybe even keep explaining to Gunther, don't you understand that the point of being a champion is defending your championship and proving over and over that you are the best? Like, essentially, like, the antagonism he keeps having with his opponents, I think some of that should be transferred between him and management. Basically, that the only thing that he thinks is worth his time is a match with Cody. Especially as we're going into Mania season, I think that's a decent story to tell.
I do too. I think part of it's also a little bit of his opposition, and no offense to him, I like Jey Uso a lot. I don't think he's a main eventer. And the whole nickname of main event Jey Uso when he's not in the main event kind of undermines him just a little bit there, right?
I think so too. I mean, I think the only thing it really does is say that Jimmy's definitely an undercard guy.
Yes,
right. It doesn't so
brother.
much. Yeah, it doesn't so much affirm Jay as it buries Jimmy.
Yes, no, I would agree there. An upper mid card Jimmy Uso over here on SmackDown this week. I have nothing else. Do you have?
I will finish off with okay, a little rough obviously in spots, but I am enjoying watching Kofi Kingston work out what his heel wrestling style is going to be.
Okay.
And I think that this could become, I think him and Woods could be really interesting heels, in particular Kofi. I think Kofi, he could become a very interesting heel. He could be a very boring heel too. But I think I at least liked the initial explorations that he was doing with.
And
Rey
he's doing
Mysterio.
something different than when they were the playful, subversive heels. You know, when the New Day was first out there. Now he's trying to be kind of a menacing heel, and I'm kind of digging that. No, I would agree with that. That said, time for Vader Club. Chris this week is selected from 1987, Nick Bockwinkel versus Curt Hennig. Chris, the floor is yours as to why you selected this.
Well, I mean, the answer is simple. Bockwinkel and Hennig are both just two of my favorite wrestlers, and this is an opportunity to watch them both together. This is fun because Hennig is fully going heel during the course of this match. This is a title change matchup. Bockwinkel, for his part, is working more as a babyface, so we get like a little bit of an inversion of what you normally get out of a Bockwinkel match if you're watching through the Bockwinkel archives. Most of his title runs, he was a heel. Here he is a babyface. We have Larry Zbyszko on the outside, and they have a mostly, normal, very good match until the finish. And actually, what I really like about this finish is that it is done in a subtle, wait, what the hell was that sort of thing. There's just enough to make sure that everyone at home is brought along, but also not too much so that you're not being handheld through every single beat. Like if the camera zoomed in on Zbyszko's hand in the actual pay-per-view, it would have been too much. It's fine to do that the week after just to make sure everybody's on board. But in the moment, I like the dust up at the end of this match as much as I enjoy the match.
I'm with you there. I recall watching this fairly in the same time it was going on because this was when I first got cable when we had moved to our new house. And I had, 14-year-old Jeff, you could have put any wrestling company in the world on the screen and I was going to watch it, and ESPN was great for that. Bockwinkel wasn't a baby face at this time. He was more like, he was a legend, but he was very full of himself. He was still the Bockwinkel character. Hennig, people don't remember this, but it's one of those things where the Curt Hennig that most fans know and love didn't come to fruition until Vince McMahon got his hands on him and got him to embrace the character work. And it's one of those things where it happened with a number of guys. Scott Hall, Ray Traylor, in a sense. It's one of those things that when WWE was a finishing school in the late 80s, early 90s,
they were good at it. They
were very good at it. And as much as we hated some of those characters, the idea behind it was just because you're a good wrestler doesn't mean people are going to have an emotional reaction to you, et cetera, et cetera.
Scott Hall sucks before.
Scott Hall's terrible. I mean,
Scott Hall
he's big,
sucks before he becomes Razor Ramon.
I mean,
he is crap.
He's on that '89 bash in the thing. He had been teaming with Dan Spivey before that.
He had
Starship
been the Diamond
Wolf.
Stud, or
That's right. He was in before he even jumped to be Razor Ramon. He did the Diamond Stud thing with Diamond Dallas Page, and he was teaming with Hennig here at the time, or at least he was in between gigs, going between the NWA and here. But he and Curt Hennig were a young white meat babyface tag team, and it's like, but they were nothing on promos, and they got booed out of the building, and Vern would always push his son over these two anyways. But in the ring, Hennig, you saw the drop kick, the flying body press was outstanding from him. I mean, all the things about Curt Hennig as a technical wrestler are in this match. And yes, this is Zbyszko, I think, right before he goes to the NWA for a while, to team with like Al Perez and be with Gary Hart in that crew. And he had like Baby Doll with him for a while. But I loved AWA Larry Zbyszko. I love what he called people spudheads or take a trip to Larryland or whatever. And here he's the driver of this entire thing, including the promo before the match where he's like in a tux going, "Hey, I don't care who wins. I want the first match, etc., and nobody's going to shake his hand because he's just this weaselly heel. What I love about the angle after this, yeah, it's kind of a dusty finish where, the committee's going to have to examine the tape before determining who has the title, etc., etc. But nobody was made to look stupid. The referee is like, hey, I'm taking this under advisement because I see these coins in the ring. He hits them with a roll of quarters, and the wrapper and the coins are all there. In the ensuing, Zbyszko is just throwing a fit to anybody who listens, including punching the referee, which is phenomenal in that ring. Hennig is just like, hey, I won the title. Bockwinkel's incensed. Rod Trongard is trying to just, get control of the end. Ray the Crippler Stevens, who's the color commentary on this match, is the guy pushing for, hey, this wasn't fair. I need to bring this up to the referee to have him change something, et cetera, et cetera. God, the one thing I didn't understand.
No, it was great. I think what you just nailed is the ensemble for their part. Everybody is doing something to enhance the concept of the injustice.
Yes.
And it makes the scene really work in a way that sometimes the very similar finishes don't have the same sort of urgency. Like, knowing full well how this resolves, watching it again, everybody just did a really good job here.
And they did a good job on the follow-up promos that I sent to you, where Larry Nelson's interviewing everybody. And Larry Nelson's not taking it. Larry Nelson is far better than these spokeshole robots that just ask, how do you feel about that? Or whatever. He's actually pressing guys on questions where like Zbyszko's getting visibly angry at Larry Nelson, which is absolutely some fantastic stuff. The one thing I didn't understand was when they had the figure 4 locked on and Bockwinkel reaches the rope and I forget the referee's name. I looked it up. I've forgotten it, but he keeps kicking Bockwinkel's hand off the rope until he grabs it with both hands and then he breaks the hold.
I was very confused by that too. Like, I guess...
I think maybe in the AWA you need to be actually in the ropes for the hold to break as opposed to just kind of using it for leverage or something like that.
I get right. Like, I guess one hand would be considered leverage, and then you having a hand. I was confused by that one too.
I was confused by it. That's all. It was just one of those things. I found it interesting because I thought, okay, maybe it's a no DQ match or whatever or something like that, but it wasn't a no DQ match.
In a no DQ match, usually you can use the ropes to help yourself break a hold.
And look, these companies, like these little territories, all had different rules. Anyway, so maybe there was something in the AWA rule book by Vern Gagne that somehow made people tougher if you weren't able to like reach the ropes or something. I don't know, but I'll try and find that for next week.
Yeah, no, I'd be interested. I don't know. I think there's probably at least one more Bockwinkel coming at some point here in the future.
He's so good.
He's so good. I enjoy his selling so much. There were several times in this match where I was just like, God, that's a effing lovely sell. The lariat that Hennig hits him with at one point where they just kind of like collide, and it's like it's a sloppy sort of like not asymmetric collision. It's great. He's what?
Well, I was like, okay, how old was Bockwinkel when this match happened?
47?
53.
53, yeah.
Older than me, even. So
he's awesome.
And he's in remarkable shape.
He's in unbelievable shape. He's just so good. And I think anyone who's a real fan of professional wrestling has to look at this guy's 45 to 55 run as the defining veteran run ever.
Yeah.
Ever. Beyond Flair, way beyond Flair, because Flair's 45 to 55 does not stand up to this. Like Nick Bockwinkel is like
even
the
Terry
final
Funk's,
boss.
Terry Funk's might hold up to it, but he's doing the hardcore stuff as opposed to like
your
technical wrestling,
right? And that was kind of
it's more of a freak show stuff than
he's at once a tough bastard, but also kind of like the freak show stuff kind of is also an easy way out thing too.
Oh, I know what I wanted to do. I wanted to also put over Ray the Crippler Stevens commentary during the match, especially like the first. I think one of the first things he says is, this Curt Hennig has a bit of a mean streak in him. Just laying the seeds there.
Yep.
For it was so beautiful. I
know everything was done the way wrestling subtlety should be done, which is not subtle, but dialed back from just handing you the answer sheet and letting you fill out the test.
Not melodrama like WWE loves to do, or even AEW these days. For where it's like the heel turn is so obviously coming that you can see it like 4 weeks ago, and you're just waiting for it, pretty much. I have 2 in my back pocket for Vader Club next week. I'm gonna save the Vader one because I'm already on the Mako kick, so I think it's gonna be Akira Hokuto versus Mako Satomura, which is a banger.
I'm looking forward to it.
Send that to you after I upload the show. But we're gonna end it there. This has been Shake Them Ropes. You can follow me on X at CrapGame13. You can follow me on Blueski, Jeff Hawkins, or you can just follow the show Shake Them Ropes, all one word, on X, part of Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Chris's socials are Instagram is at DOCTOR_NOV. My other show, I do the Dynamite Show on Fight Game Media Wednesday nights, about 20 minutes after Dynamite goes off the air. We go live on YouTube, myself and Figure Four's Paul Fontaine. Thorough deconstruction of that night's AEW show drops in your podcast feeds for free the next day if you're just an audio listener. Chris has plugs, and he has earwax. He's going to tell you that now.
Yeah. If you want to learn about guitar, music, these sorts of things, please follow me on Instagram here. Not sure when, but sometime in the not so distant future, I'm making some sort of announcement of like a music Patreon channel thing where I'll be doing kind of like an open session thing for those of you who are interested in continuing music education, but at an affordable price point, trying to brainstorm something that works for all of us here. And I'll be making an announcement about that in the distant future. For now, follow me on Instagram, follow me on Spotify, and keep on dreaming those little dreamy dreams.
Forget all about that macho stuff and learn how to play guitar.